My ambition is to try and have the simplest life, keeping all those passions alive. It's very difficult to disconnect from racing because first and foremost, racing is my passion, is what I love most doing. At the end of the day, I think what really matters in life is mostly the people that you love most, and to just keep that in mind. I'm Charles Leclerc, and I'm going to tell you about my dreams.
When I go to sleep, I'm thinking about all the things that happened during my day or might happen tomorrow, and I was curious, when you, Charles Leclerc, go to bed, what do you think of?
What I love most doing is racing. But I race since I'm 3.5 years old, and I've spent many of my nights thinking about racing and racing only, but I'm also very creative. I think one of the things with me is that I love being creative, but at the same time, I get obsessed with things very quickly and with new passions. And one week it will be paddle, and the other week will be music and piano. Every week I find a new thing that I'm super curious about, that I want to learn of, and that I keep thinking about. And so sometimes it can be not really related to racing, and it can be any new passions like paddle or music. And sometimes it's racing. It's not necessarily always the same thing, but when a thought is too strong for you to fall asleep, as I said, I value sleeping. And so I want sleep, and so I found ways in order to try and switch off the brain as much as possible.
You just described yourself as someone who gets obsessed with new things. Every week, something new. We actually heard from your team that you recently tried Pilates.
Yes.
Did anything surprise you about it?
I mean, I'm super curious, and I'm very lucky and very grateful to be in a position where I can follow my passion and travel all around the world. And thanks to that, you see many different cultures, you meet completely new people that have completely different backgrounds and that have done very different things in their lives. I get passionate by speaking to these people and by getting to know what they've done, what are they passionate about, what they love so much about their passion, which might be very different to mine. And so it varies, but yeah, I did try Pilates some time ago, which I actually enjoyed. It's just very interesting to get to do those different and new experiences, to get out of my comfort zone and understand what can be added and what I can do differently, or what I can start doing more, because I found a pleasure that I didn't know I would before doing it.
We actually filmed Arturo Coelho, one of the best paddle players in the world, a few weeks ago. And when we told him that you play paddle as well, he really lit up. And I was curious to know, what got you into the sport in the first place?
I started during COVID, I think. There wasn't much we could do during COVID. And so I was trying to find ways to entertain myself. And I found a video actually on YouTube about paddle. And I was very interested in it. I mean, I used to play squash before. And I played tennis a long time ago when I was a kid, and that's a bit of a mix of both. So I was very curious to try it, and as soon as we could get out of home, I asked 3 other friends to come with me and to try it, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, it's a super cool sport. I mean, I love tennis, but tennis is a lot more technical, and if you don't practice it, and also if you don't really find a person that is very close to your level, I always struggle to have long exchanges. But actually in paddle, it's a little bit easier as soon as you start knowing how to play with the glass and everything. And I just enjoyed it so much. Then to play at a very high level is incredibly difficult. But to have fun, I straight away had fun. And there's a lot of reflexes, a lot of anticipation, and with the glass as well, some kind of reaction as well. And that's very similar also to my sport. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
We'll have to set up a match with Arturo then.
I'll love to. I'm not sure I will win.
And so when life gets hectic and you can't play paddle or tennis or even sit at a piano, how do you give your mind a break? Is there anything that does the same thing for you and gives you access to this creative outlet?
I listen to music in general a lot, whether it's my music or anybody else's music. I just love music, and I think it's a way to kind of disconnect the brain and think about other things. Probably where I disconnect most of the brain is when I actually play the piano, but just listening to music in general is also something that I love doing. And it gives me also inspiration of what I can play next, the next time I'm on a piano. However, I'm very limited technically when I play the piano because I'm not a very good pianist. I enjoy playing the piano, and it's a hobby, but I don't have enough time to spend to really get to the level where I would want to get at in order to play whatever that crosses my mind. So I need to be creative, but not too much either, because otherwise I just cannot play.
You mentioned listening to music to get inspired, and so I kind of have to ask, who are you listening to right now?
Sofiane Pamard is a pianist that I absolutely love. Actually, we did few songs together. We composed few songs together, and that was a process that I absolutely loved. In a completely different genre, but Coldplay is a group that I love so much. The Cooks, the Strokes. I mean, I love music in general, but I'll say these four are probably my top four.
We've also heard you've been reading a lot recently. Do you read to learn? Do you read to escape? What type of books do you read?
I've tried to read to escape, but this is not something that I've been particularly attracted to just yet. There are some books that I really enjoy, like The Alchemist from Paulo Coelho. But most of the time I probably read, I will say, to learn. I read quite a few books on AI, quite a few books on psychology. I'm reading a book now on humanity, which is the whole history of humanity. I'm at the beginning of the book for now, so
it's a long book.
It's a long book, but so yeah, there's not one particular theme I read about, but I like to read to kind of learn new things.
I've been told that you tried spending less time on your phone recently, which I believe is a very hard thing to do. What pushed you to do it, and did it actually work?
Yeah, I am achieving that. Then there's a balance to find, because it's also true that as soon as you kind of feel a little bit disconnected on what's going around, because today everybody is with a phone, and so there's a balance to find. I did 2 or 3 months, I think, without ever touching my phone apart from WhatsApp when I was receiving messages and call, and that was maybe a little bit extreme. So now maybe I'm trying to find a balance between the two, because it's good to be up to date with what's going on around the world, and to stay in touch with friends and funny moments. There's also a lot of funny moments on social media, and it's part also of social interaction with friends and family. So there's a balance to find, but it is also true that it's a place where sometimes it can be a little bit toxic when you are in a position where people can kind of judge and say anything very, very easily. And they have the right to do so, but as a human being, you can also be affected by looking at those things. So it's a balance to find. I don't know if I found the perfect one, but for now it works for me, which is the most important.
Something that came up with almost everyone we've interviewed so far is the fear of doing nothing early in a career, as if resting was a waste of time. Like resting feels like falling behind. Did you ever go through something like that?
I think I was quite lucky, and that came by chance. And also, again, my manager, when I was 12 years old, sent me to a center in Italy, which was focused on physical training, but also mental training. And physical training, even at 12, I knew what that meant. However, mental training for me was completely new. And I got there and I was incredibly surprised. And so very, very early on in my career, I was sensibilized by the fact of resting and giving some rest to the brain in some moments of life, or during a race weekend, by example, is incredibly important. And there were all kind of tests for focus, for mental performances, and how much it affected my mental performances whenever I was tired. So luckily for me, and honestly, it's more about luck than me realizing it. I learned about it very early on in my career. And that has been a huge benefit for me. When you are young, you don't really think about those things particularly. I was just loving what I was doing. I loved racing. I was obsessed with racing, and I still am. But I didn't understand that it was important sometimes to switch off, to relax, and to make sure that you were in the proper mental state, and that you had enough energy whenever I was getting into the car or karting back then to make sure that I was performing at my highest level. But yeah, for sure, now it's definitely probably the most important thing that there is for me to perform at my highest level.
You've actually been pretty open about sleeping 10, sometimes 11 hours. A lot of people, myself included, would feel quite guilty about that. Do you?
No, I don't feel guilty at all. I mean, I really enjoy sleeping. But more than that, I think everybody is different. Everybody has kind of a sweet spot. Probably my sweet spot is more around 8 hours, and sometimes I over push it a little bit. But it is also true that by traveling so much, sometimes that 8 hours can become 9 or 10, or a bit more when I just need to recover more. Unfortunately, the thing that I cannot really control is the jet lag. We are going absolutely everywhere around the world, and that's probably not a great thing, because the consistency at which you go to sleep and the consistency at which you wake up is very important. But in my case, it's something that I cannot really achieve by so much travel. But I will say that maybe 8 hours, when I'm in a rhythm and in the same time zone for a long time, is probably my sweet spot. But yeah, it happens that I sleep also for like 12 hours, which is quite a lot.
And I'm guessing there must be some nights where sleep just doesn't come. There's too much on your mind, or maybe jet lag. And when that happens, is there anything you've learned to do to get through it?
For sure. I mean, it's not that I get into bed and I sleep straight away all the time. I'm lucky because I fall asleep quite easily, but surely there are some nights where you are tense for one thing or another. And then it's more difficult to sleep. You've just got too many thoughts, thinking obsessively to that one thing, and it's very difficult to get that thought out of your mind. For me, what works best in those moments is breathing techniques. I manage to, not get rid of the thoughts, but maybe make them a little bit less strong, and being able to fall asleep. But again, this is something very specific to everyone. As I was saying earlier, from 12 years old, I went to this center, and this is also part of the mental training, where we are learned and we are taught into trying to get rid of these unnecessary or negative thoughts that you don't want. It was more specific to training, but I actually use the same thing before going to sleep if I have a harder time falling asleep.
And when you do get a real break, what does it actually feel like to step away from everything? Can you switch off quickly, or does it take a while?
It's very difficult to disconnect from racing, because first and foremost, racing is my passion, is what I love most doing. But I think it's needed. As for everyone, at one point it's important that you just disconnect from it and then come back to it with a fresher mind and new ideas. And for that, it's important for me to just disconnect from racing.
And so, to disconnect, you've started building your own brands and started investing in companies like 8 Sleep, for example. Where does that instinct come from? Is it something you always knew you wanted to do?
Mostly because I love creativity and to create something from my vision and what I envision from this thing to be is something that I particularly enjoy, but not only, also because I love working with people. And as I was saying earlier, speaking with people and trying to get the best out of people is really something that also passionates me. And to build a team and to all work towards the same mission and making a vision reality is something that I really enjoy. And that's actually very similar to my sport as well, because we are all working towards the same goal. And to see so many people and all together pushing in the same direction and so passionate about making it work is a beautiful thing to see.
And so has anything from your world as a competitor turned out to be useful when you're building something as an entrepreneur?
Surely. And I think that is the relationship with the people in general. Understanding people and making sure that they are in the best environment for them to do their best possible job is super cool. I mean, I started karting, I was 3.5 years old, so I was a kid. And growing up, with my sport, you always grow up with adults around because you've got a mechanic that takes care of your karting when I was driving. And there's always this relationship with people where you need each other in order to perform well on track. And so growing up, you start to I learned how to deal with people, how to understand people, how to speak with people, how to be sensitive to what they felt, and to make sure that you use the right words in the right moment in order to make sure that we all pushed in the right direction. Now you work with more and more people. And then you learn other things like structure and mentality and motivation. And I started racing because I loved racing first and foremost, and the driving. And I was very surprised also growing up that I actually enjoyed also the whole background, and the actual relationships with people is what I really enjoy as well.
And so in the other direction, has anything from your business side fed back into how you think about your main career?
I might be repetitive, but I still think that I grew up in a certain environment, and that was racing. And my whole life I've only done racing. But then to work into a business, into a different environment, you get to know different people that have different passions. And I think that opens up your mind. It clearly made me a more open-minded person, and that always helps.
I feel like most of the people at your level wait until they retire to start their businesses. You chose not to. You chose to start this at the peak of your career. Why?
Well, first of all, it's clear, and this has always been my priority, 99% of my time is dedicated to racing and in trying to be the best possible driver, thinking about racing, trying to make sure that the performance on track is the best. But then surely the little free time that I have, I try to spend it on projects that passionate me and that I love, with people I trust and that I enjoy working with as well. And so I've started to meet very, very talented people along the way, and you can combine both. So there's no compromise to be found. Racing is and will remain the main priority until the end of my career. But I found a good balance between the two, and I'm happy that way.
Tell me how the relationship with 8 Sleep started. I've heard there's an interesting story with Matteo, the co-founder and CEO of the company.
Yeah, it's actually quite a funny story because Matteo has always been a big fan of motorsport. And one day I texted him and I sent him, I sent him an email say that because I had tried the pod and I absolutely loved the product. And I was like, okay, I really want that we do something together with 8Sleep because I just love the brand, I love the product, and we just need to try and do something together. And he said, yes, great, let's meet in Miami. And we met in Miami for the very first time. And then he was like, but you know what, Charles, actually I contacted your manager 7 years prior to that. And obviously the company was smaller back then. And he wanted to support us, but for one reason or another, it didn't get to the end. And I was never aware that 8Sleep had contacted us back then. And 7 years later, I was the one to contact Matteo to try and do something together. So it's a cool story. At the end, it was meant to be that way. And I'm super proud to be part of 8Sleep now.
So if I understand correctly, you went from user to ambassador to investor. What made you actually cross that line? What made you want to be part of that company?
Just because I love the product. And it's a product that genuinely resolves a problem. For me, recovery is so incredibly important. I travel all the time, and every time I'm at home, it's for very few nights. And those few nights are very important for me to be back at 100%. And and the pod definitely gave that to me. The quality of sleeping just got much better. And then there was also a big problem, but my wife Alexandra and I don't really have the same, or don't really want the same temperature while sleeping, so always ended up out of the cover, and she was underneath it, always being cold, and I'm always warm. So now you can split it, and that is probably the best feature in the world. So yeah, for these two reasons, I think it solves a problem that many people, if not all the people, have, and for that, I thought there was a huge potential.
And so when you met Matteo for the first time, was investing on the table from the start, or did it come later?
No, actually, the very first discussion we've had with Matteo, there was a very good feeling straight away. And obviously, Matteo is also Italian, and I've got a very special relationship with Italy and Italian people in general. So I think there was just chemistry straight away, and we had a laugh, and I loved the product already. I love the brand. I didn't know Matteo, but we got to know each other, and he's a person that I really respect and that I very much appreciate. So from that moment onwards, things have just unfolded naturally. If it was not for a partnership together, I probably would have invested in the company, because I anyway believed in the product and in Matteo. And so yeah, everything was done quite naturally, but I'm proud, to be part of the 8Sleep family now.
So as an investor, you got to visit the 8Sleep design team based in San Francisco. Tell us about that day.
I mean, I had been to San Francisco in the past, and I knew how special this place is in the world. I think for technology in general, it's just a unique place, and it will be very difficult to reproduce a place like that anywhere else in the world. So I was expecting something special and to see something special. But I think what always struck me and very much impressed me with 8Sleep is how quickly the team is able to change direction, and how reactive the team is, considering how big the company is already. And that's always been a very, very impressive feature. And on new products, it's the world today is evolving so quickly that if you don't have this feature, I think it's very difficult to stay on top of technology. And 8Sleep definitely have that. So I met various extremely talented people. I've had some incredibly insightful and super interesting discussions with the team back in San Francisco, and I learned a lot as well on the actual technology and what's going to happen in the future, and the future of sleep in general, because it's an area as well that has been for many years a little bit unlooked, and 8Sleep arrived with such an incredible product, and it's super interesting to know where they want to go next.
I've been told you follow technology and AI pretty closely. Did that play into you wanting to be part of the company?
Surely. I mean, innovation has always been something that I've been curious about, and technology particularly. And today, with the world of AI, you kind of have to stay up to date, because every day there's something new. And also, it's part of my job. I mean, being a racing driver is for sure a lot happens on the track, but also a lot happens off the track. And whatever I can do to take advantage of the track, I will try to do that. But more than that, it's just super interesting. I think we are in a moment where everything is evolving very, very quickly, and everything changes so fast. And that interests me a lot.
You've been pretty public about your love for playing chess, and I was just curious to hear, what do you love about it? What does it give you that something else couldn't?
I think peace of mind, and the fact also to always think ahead is something that I like. And the competition. At the end, in whatever I do, I'm super competitive, and I love the feeling of competing. So yeah, that's what I enjoy about chess. I first started playing it with my grandfather when I was a kid. So it also brings me back those memories that I particularly enjoy, and it's the kind of things that when you do them when you are a kid and you keep doing them while growing up, I don't know, there's a special attachment to certain activities for that reason, just because it brings you back to a particular moment of your childhood. So I guess there's a little bit of that as well. But I just love the game. I think it's a really cool game for the mind, and to think, the strategy. I just enjoy it.
Listening to you throughout our conversation, talking about music, books, investing, what are you chasing next? What are your dreams for the future?
I mean, my ambition is to try and have the simplest life, keeping all those passions alive. And this is really where I'm spending my time now. I don't really need anything more, because I'm happy the way I am, and my only ambition now is to obviously be a world champion. This is all I've ever dreamed about, and this is all I've ever worked for, and what I will continue to do so. But yeah, just having a relatively simple life. Then of course simple is relative, and it's more simpler than what it is now, because obviously my life is quite hectic, and I travel from everywhere. I mean, I go everywhere in the world every week for racing and for different kind of events. But yeah, trying to keep a simple life, and at the end of the day, I think what really matters in life is mostly the people that you love most, and yeah, to just keep that in mind, even though life is obviously quite hectic.